All right, kiddos, get your D6s ready because today we're rolling up a big old fatty of creativity with your old buddy Dave Makes Noises as we ask the internets, what are your coolest concept characters? Part 3. A dragonborn Oath of Vengeance paladin named Immerzeal who is unknowingly an Oathbreaker paladin. Basically, the idea goes like this. Immerzeal was a young paladin serving the god of redemption. She was in a new town with a small group of fellow acolytes, planting a new church in said town. During their stay, they were ambushed and captured by paladins serving a rival god, the god of vengeance. Immerzeal was then brainwashed to serve the dark god, in turn breaking her original oath, as her new god has a domain opposite from her original god's. When Immerzeal took the new oath, she was bound to the new god's divinity, but now carries the curse that comes with breaking her original oath. Now, whenever she tries to use a paladin spell, she must roll a d20 without modifiers for spell activation. On a success, the spell works as normal. On a fail, the spell will either fail or backfire. It depends on a pre-prepared list. This effect could be something like casting Crown of Madness when you're trying to use Zone of Truth. The reason this happens is because the powers of the two oaths are at war with each other, thus causing problems with Immerzeal's power. The DC for this roll starts low at early levels and increases every level as the curse of the Oathbreaker becomes stronger. The only things the curse doesn't affect are Lay on Hands and Divine Smite, since those two spells are core spells to any given oath and are therefore harder to influence. The curse only ends if Immerzeal is freed from her oath by one of the gods or if any of the three parties die. But she doesn't know any of this. As far as she knows, she's a paladin of the god of vengeance whose divine gifts don't work because of what she thinks is a lack of faith. She now travels the world with a group of adventurers she recently met, enacting vengeance on evildoers to heal her faith and put herself back in the righteous graces of her deity, not knowing that everything she's doing will continually strengthen the curse. This kind of changes the way oaths and oath-breaking work in D&D 5th edition, so if you would like to use this idea, I definitely suggest talking with your DM since it is a bit complicated with the spell activation roll. Ashley, an orc/half-orc that one day in his youth ate some magic mushrooms and had a vision where he witnessed two teams of large armored humans fight each other tooth and nail over nothing more than some leather, an American football game. Spurring these two teams of brutes on were bards, dressed in flimsy outfits and wielding strange hypnotic objects which they constantly waved about. The conclusion to which Ashley came was that these bards were the ones causing the two teams to fight so fiercely with their hypnotic wavy thingies, and such he would endeavor to become the greatest bard ever, make his own hypnotic wavy thingies by ripping up two bushes, and travel the land, trying to start and egg on fights so that he one day may become as powerful as his namesake. Never really gotten a chance to play D&D, but would love to, and I keep coming up with potential characters that I want to play. Ashley is one of my more fun ideas, the image of an orc dressed in a cheerleader outfit, waving two bushes about his pom-poms, screaming, "Give me an O! Give me a please! Give me a stop!" never fails to bring a grin to my face. My favorite was a tiefling named Angelus, for a planned Pathfinder Skulls and Shackles game before the lockdown struck. He had been raised by an ex-paladin adoptive father in a secluded community and had the goal of becoming a paladin because of all the heroic stories he had been told. However, when he attempted to join a paladin order, he accidentally went to a Hell Knight paladin order instead. For those of you who don't know, Hell Knights are the Judge Dreads of paladins, specializing in killing demons and devils. As such, they captured and tortured him to find out his evil scheme. After escaping the Hell Knights, his devil parent appeared, offering him power/revenge. Angelus told him where to shove it. Angelus then researched the biggest, least evil enemy of the devil who had appeared to him and found an astral dragon that had been trapped in the plane of water. He contacted the dragon and became a synthesist summoner, staying in the monstrous form with the intent of freeing it by staying at sea to strengthen the connection to the plane of water. I had intended to play him as a naive and scared kid who was putting on a poor pretense of a big dumb scary monster without really understanding what monsters are like. I also planned for the character to go through a realization that he stayed in the monstrous form because he didn't want people to see the person underneath and still call him a monster, with him eventually coming to terms with it and taking a level of paladin or war priest to signify his self-acceptance, and so that I would not need to keep him transformed all the time. Pebble Rock Warstone has listened to seemingly countless tales of his great escape from prison. usually while sitting in the shadows of a pub while sipping on his latest batch of homemade alcohol.
He escaped by disguising himself as a woman after he seduced the jailer's daughter and took her clothes. He was an unstoppable whirling dance of death. Daggers and crossbow bolts flew everywhere as he somersaulted down the hallway.
He got all the guards drunk from the best tasting brew they'd ever had, secretly made from the remains of his chamber pot. Then he followed them all out the door in a great cheering conga line slipping out into the night. He's a dwarf over 5 feet tall.
His beard hangs down past his enormous balls. All his 8 women deny his advances due to the immense size of his manhood. Dwarfhood? Pebble Rock just softly chuckles at each of them, all incredible exaggerations, all foolish lies. But there once was a time when Pebble Rock would not chuckle at the tales of his great escape, though there have been many down the years, for no jail nor dungeon can hold the uncontainable dwarf. For he hated the fact that no one knew the truth, nor sought justice for a brother he lost seemingly a lifetime ago, when he was known by another name. For Warstone is not his true surname, which has not stopped many of the Warstone clan from claiming him as their descendant, or as their second cousin twice removed, or the father of their daughter's bastard child. Only one of those is actually true. He was once known as Pebble Rock Grogson, who lived with his family in their cliffside home on the edge of Grog's Swamp. Here, his family had lived for generations, and here they made their famous brews from the various waters and living things of the swamp, not to mention a kick-ass gumbo. One night, in his first rebellious years, Pebble Rock and his younger brother Steady Rock, the Undrunkable, went out for a night of great drinking. Both were thoroughly inebriated as they stumbled home towards the towering cliffs of their home. Pebble Rock only caught a glimpse of a darting, shadowy figure, a flash of pointy ears, before he heard the gurgling cry of his brother as the dagger struck home. He sobbed uncontrollably as he knelt over his brother, who clutched at him with bloody fingers, tracing lines in Pebble Rock's face as he begged and pleaded for help. But within seconds of horrible agony, his head fell back and would never rise again. Pebble Rock cried out in disbelief, even as he was dragged away and arrested for his brother's murder, and the theft of his family's recipe for the greatest of all their brews. For Steady Rock was the best of the next generation of brewers, and nothing has ever tasted as good as his personal brew, no matter how hard Pebble Rock has tried to recreate it over the years. His cries of the elf that had struck down his brother fell on deaf ears as he found himself chained to a wall, still drunkenly sobbing and calling out his brother's name. His calls of I'm sorry, only taken as the beginnings of a confession. His escape from that dwarven dungeon would make a great epic for the people to tell and sing, but Pebble Rock alone knows the truth, which he will not divulge, nor of how he had the lines tattooed onto his face, following the bloody lines his brother's fingers traced into his face. From that day forward, he has kept his beard closely shaven, at first from fear of recognition, and then so no one would connect him with the tales of his legend. It doesn't help with the occasional disguise either. He grins with his raggedly handsome face, a gold tooth sparkling in the lamplight which he swiped from the mouth of a passing gnome sorcerer without a sound. And so Pebble Rock has traveled from town to town, plying his trade of theft and deception. Caught only as many times as he has escaped, it is whispers and stories that follow his hidden paths. Some look on him as a folk hero, for he steals from only those he deems deserving, or who are just assholes. And many poor houses have believed their mysterious gifts at their door as having come from his store of stolen goods. And so the tales grow. Pebble Rock marches on, and his arsenal of weapons, magic items, and strange trinkets grow. His hatred of elves has remained the same. He has never trusted them for the death of his brother, and he has never ceased his lookout for work of the hooded elf, though he is continually frustrated by his drunken memory. He can remember nothing specific, not the color of their hair nor the shade of their skin. More recently, he has received a strange letter. He has been asked to join a group of champions in a great undertaking, but the letter contacted him by his real name. Even stranger, the author offered him the treasure he has yearned for more than any other, the identity of the murderer of his brother. So Pebble Rock's eyes have hardened, and his smile is gone, for the rage he has kept at bay threatens to overtake him. He has taken his companion, Snitch the Trustworthy, a rat man of unimpeachable character who has helped Pebble Rock in many adventures. His natural inclination of skittering into the smallest cracks, sneaking, and all things backstabbery have been of great help to the rugged rogue. Snitch has strapped all the gear he can carry and follows with a toothy grin on his face. Loot, legends, and ladies may await with the dawn, but Pebble Rock only cares for one thing: vengeance. A monk that took the silent vow until the day she proved to herself she was strong enough to speak again and used sign language instead. One other player knew the language and acted as a translator in-universe, but I spoke for my character on Discord. Additionally, I've tried my best to use genderless grammar, and since we didn't play using English, but our native language, it has proven to be quite challenging to give more immersion to that sign language thing. And while my character was a female, I'm a male. I didn't try to keep it a secret, and the DM gave other players some hints about it, like describing peculiar physique of upper body parts, or even a telepathy episode with my hands tied so that I couldn't use my sign language. Since the character was half orc, I've decided to use Clownfish plugin on Discord, but have adjusted it to have some feminine hints in it, and no other player, even the one that translated my messages for others, knew about that. An Azamar warlock of celestial origin. That's actually a newborn god who gives himself his powers. As he gains followers and levels up, he gets stronger and capable of more powerful magic. And if the DM agrees to some homebrew rules, the character creates more warlock devots, or even clerics and paladins that worship him. The idea itself of a newborn god that is the source of his own godly powers could technically be done using other religious classes, but since such a character would actively want to convince as many people as possible to worship him, a charisma-based celestial warlock seems to fit it the best. A young child that always wanted to use magic but wasn't smart enough to become a wizard, nor did it have any strong ties with holy/unholy beings, or even the nature itself. The kid one day finds a dagger that gives it a sorceress origin of wild magic, but at a cost. The knife is actually a hex blade, and its will is so strong, it manages to manifest itself as a second personality in the child's body and mind. 2 character sheets sharing equipment and physical stats, but with different mental abilities and class features, sorcerer and warlock. And here's the kicker part. I've planned this character with a friend and decided that we'll both play it at the same time. I'd be the sorcerer part, and she'd be the warlock part, and we'd constantly discuss who's in control, depending on the situation, and my character's mental stability, if we eventually get to play it. A bard that is not only cocky enough to say I f***ed your mom to anyone that displeases him, regardless of consequences, but actively seeks a way to time travel and fulfill his threats, becoming a father of everyone he ever shouted his catchphrase at. A warforged druid of the moon, hell yeah, that doesn't magically wild shape into his beastly forms, but transforms his mechanical body into robot animals. I actually get to play a version of this in a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game, and my DM already regrets it since that version of wild shape allows druids to transform not only into apex predators and dinosaurs, but also gargantuan beings like Tarask at later levels. Hello, fellow node of the ever-expanding infinite occupying this particular space in this particular time in this particular dimension, and thank you for watching this particular video to the very, very end. If you've got a cool character concept you'd like to share with us, please do so in the comments below or on the subreddit, where all other stories can be found and shared as well. If you'd like to hear some stories live with some lovely piano music accompaniment from yours truly, join us on a Sunday stream sometime at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT over at twitch.tv/MrRipper stream. I also make TikToks. I don't know if you're on TikTok, but if you helplessly suckle at the impressive teat of the almighty algorithm, you can find me goofing off in a corner over at Dave Makes Noises. I hope this week that you got some fresh air and exercise and drank more than your share of hydrogen monoxide. Please sub for Nat20s, ding that dong to join the early squad. We love you here at Rip Daddy's house. Thanks again for watching to the end, and we'll see you next time.